Hey guys, I just wanted to go through the calculating macronutrients. So you'll see there that you have a macronutrients explained ebook. And so why this is important is because it teaches you how much of different foods that you should actually be consuming. So it's a big eye opener, and it's a scientifically proven way to actually lose weight if that is your goal, or to gain muscle mass if that is your goal. Okay, so is it a must? Do you have to do it? No, you don't. But I would recommend giving it a go for at least a few weeks, just so that you can see what exactly you are consuming, where you're going wrong, what you need to improve on, if nothing else. And if, however, you were finding it a little bit difficult to track everything or keep to your targets, what I'd recommend is at least hitting your protein target intake, because this is what helps to stabilize your blood sugar levels, helps to keep you fuller for longer, helps with recovery, helps with performance, and just helps to actually gain that lean muscle mass that we are wanting to increase our metabolism. And also, if we were wanting to bulk up, obviously it would help there too. So the first step in your book is we need to determine what your activity levels are. So women need to be opting for the lower end. So say, for example, it says 12 to 14 calories per pound of body weight. Women would choose the 12, men would choose the 14. Okay, so men is the higher number, women is the lower number. So, and that is because naturally men do have a higher metabolism than what women do. So what's your activity level? Is it below average? So minimal exercise and normal daily activities. Is it average, where we have an hour of exercise 4 to 5 times a week plus the normal daily activity? Is it above average, where you're actually training for 2 to 3 hours of exercise 4 to 5 times a week plus your normal daily activity? Or are you an extreme athlete, someone who spends hours on end training every day? So an example, Marsha is a female who weighs 170 pounds. She has an office job from 9 to 5 and trains for up to 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. So her goal is fat loss. So you would go 170 pounds times 14 calories per pound to get you your basal metabolic rate. Okay, so she would be sitting at 2,380 calories. Obviously, you need to transfer what you are in kilograms to pounds instead, okay, just for this exercise. So she would need that 2,380 calories just to maintain her weight and stay where it is. There's no deficit there. So step 2 would be to define whether you want to be in a deficit or surplus. So if your goal is to lose body fat, you would choose a deficit of 10 to 30%. If you were wanting to build mass, you would start with an increase of 10 to 15%. And if you weren't really sure, I would just start with the maintenance calories and keep it at that and go from there, because quite often we tend to be eating more than what our basal metabolic rate is. So if you just started it there and then seen how you progressed over the next following week or two, you would adjust it from there. So with that goal of a 10 to 30% deficit for fat loss, I highly recommend only starting with a 10 to 15% maximum deficit. Now, this is because we want to be eating as much as we possibly can get away with while still getting the results that we want. Because if we start with a 30% deficit, we've probably dropped our calories too low, and after a few weeks, you might last the whole 8 weeks, but you will rebound, and I can almost guarantee it, because I see people time and time again, they set their calories too low. They're like, yep, it's easy, it's all good. But there comes a time when enough is enough. Your body can't cope with that much of a deficit anymore, and you'll end up probably binge eating or just craving a lot of junk and gaining back everything that you've lost. So if you don't want that to happen and you want the results to last long term, I highly recommend starting with just a 10% deficit and only changing it if you need to, okay? So step number 3 then would be to how to choose your deficit. So I've just discussed that really. Let's start at the lower end of the scale and adjust accordingly, because we can always take more food away, but if we start with too little food, the results aren't going to last and you're not going to want to try it again. So you want to feel full, you want to be able to perform well, you want to be increasing your strength in the gym. If you find that you're in a deficit and all of a sudden you're having really poor recovery where you are sore for days afterwards and it's taking a long time to recover, your immune system might be run down, you'll feel fatigued, you'll feel weaker, you won't want to move as fast. All of those things, if you're not making progress in the gym because of lack of caloric intake, it can so easily be changed and we can get you feeling your most optimal with an appropriate deficit instead of jumping too high up the scale, okay? All right. So 10 to 15% is very achievable and maintainable, whereas a 30% one, it's probably not going to last long. You might be able to stick with it for a while, but there will come a time where you'll most likely rebound. Okay, obviously if you had an event coming up and you wanted to lose weight fast, then go for it, but then you need to get back to maintenance and adjust appropriately afterwards. All right, so let's run through an example. Marsha's a female who weighs 170 pounds. She has an office job. She trains for up to an hour a day, 5 days a week. Her goal is fat loss. So she's 170 pounds. So we times that by 14 calories per pound. And her basal metabolic rate is 2,380 calories. So that's her baseline calories. Next, we'll work out her deficit required for weight loss. So if she wants to lose a minimum of 10 kilograms in 10 weeks for a special event, she'll be using a large deficit of 30%. She doesn't care if the results stay, okay? So we'd go 2,380 calories times 0.3 is 714. So that's how much we need to take off of the basal metabolic rate. So 2,380 minus 714 calories is 1,666 calories, okay? So that's her new intake. Then from there, we've got the calories set. We need to work out how much of the macronutrients you're going to be consuming. So protein is of the highest priority because it's going to keep you feeling satisfied for longer, fuller for longer, stabilize your energy levels and blood sugar, and really help with performance and recovery as well, okay? So the recommended amount of protein is 0.4 grams of protein per pound of body weight. If you're exercising regularly, your requirement increases to 0.7 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So as an generally, my rule of thumb is a gram of protein per pound of body weight. It's doable. It's not too much protein that you're like, I can't eat anything else because all my calories are going towards protein. It's very doable and yeah, it helps you with your performance. You can go a little bit higher if you need to, but around that 1 gram is probably a good amount. An example of this would be Tom attending CrossFit 5 days a week, which is a mixed sport. So he wants to focus on performance and good recovery. His goal is not weight loss, it's recovery and performance. So he opts for the 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. He weighs 198 pounds, so he'll require 1.3 grams of protein times 198 pounds equals 237 grams of protein a day. That's quite a lot. So just to give you an example of how much people eat, I would consume about 140 to 160 grams of protein a day, and that's making it a priority and tracking. So I make sure there's protein with breakfast, I make sure there's protein with lunch, morning tea, because that's usually my post-workout or pre-workout. Sometimes I have a scoop of collagen with afternoon tea. Sometimes I don't. I don't need to meet my requirements. But then at dinner time, I definitely have a good source of protein as well. So you need to be able to split that up over your meals throughout the day. If you're only eating 3 times a day, it's going to be a little bit harder to get all the protein in that you need to, okay? Fat's also essential. So we need that for healthy hormone function. We need it for healthy skin. We need it. We need about 20 to 30% of our calories going towards fat. And so with fat and carbs, you can adjust this one to what you like to eat more of. So if you're someone who loves your fatty foods like pork belly or coconut cream, coconut yogurt, your fattier cuts of meat, your eggs, that kind of thing, then you would opt for the higher percentage of fat, or cut it in half and do 25% fat. So yeah, make that according to what you like to eat more of. If you were training for performance, you would probably opt for a higher carb intake than a higher fat intake, okay? So if you preferred fats, maybe go for about 27%. Carbs are also necessary. We need that for healthy brain function. We need it to perform well. We need it for energy. We need it pre and post workout as well, so that we get our optimal results. So basically your excess calorie amount will go towards your carbohydrates. We need to make sure within those carbohydrates we consume fiber, because fiber is very important for weight loss, keeping you fuller for longer, healthy bowel movements, healthy gut function, and all of that, okay? So let's recap on what we did. We worked out our baseline calories. So your weight in pounds times your multiplier equals your baseline calories. So an example, 160 times 14 equals 2,240. Then steps 2 and 3, you're working out your deficit or your surplus. So say it's a deficit, we went 2,240 calories, which was our baseline, minus 484, which is a 20% deficit. And then we got 1,756. So that's our starting calories, okay? Step 4 was to determine your macros. So protein was 160. It was your body weight in pounds times 0.8, or obviously if you go with what I just chatted about, you would go times 1. And then you would need 160 grams of protein. But if it was times 0.8, you'd get 128 grams of protein, okay? So from there, we work out that equals 512 calories, because there is 4 calories to 1 gram of protein. Interesting. Fats, we got our starting calories, which was 1,756 times 0.3. And that's at obviously your 30% of that, and that was 526.8. So that's how many fat calories we were allocated. We divide that by 9 because there is 9 calories per gram of fat, and that equated to 58.33 grams of fat. All right. Then your carbohydrates, you started with your starting calories, 1,756. You minus 512 calories from the protein, 526 calories from the fats, and you were left with 707.2 calories to be allocated towards your carbohydrate intake. There is 4 calories per gram of carbs, so we divide the 717.2 divide 4, and we get 179.3 grams of carbohydrates, okay? So you've got your macronutrient worksheet there to work everything out. Like I said, start with the lower end of the scale if you are choosing a deficit for your weight loss, because a lot of the time we see weight loss happening even when we're just at maintenance calories. So if you can just drop it by 10%, you are likely to see some results. Give it a couple of weeks before you change your mind, and it has to be consistently. So if you were like, oh yeah, I got 1800 calories, and you stuck to those 1800 calories for 4 or 5 days out of 7, and then went way over those other 2 or 3 days, it's really going to be hard to tell whether that was an effective amount or not, because you weren't consistent every single day. So please be consistent at least for a whole week before you go changing your caloric intake and your targets again. Okay? So, should be easy enough. I like this sort of stuff because it's scientific based, it's a bit of maths, bit nerdy, but it's really good to see where you're at, how much you need, and you learn from there. So when you start tracking, you can really see where you're going wrong. So there's no lying when you're tracking. You track everything. Just because you have something bad, it doesn't mean you shouldn't track it. Track it anyway, see where you're at, and you'll be able to adjust from there, okay? All right, let us know if you have any questions or concerns. This was supposed to be the week 2 video, but I know a few of you are quite keen to get in and start working out how much calories you need and your macronutrient targets. Okay guys, have a great rest of your week, and let us know if you have any questions. Bye.